Here is the latest Higher Summits forecast brought to you by our friends at the Mount Washington Observatory.
Weather above treeline in the White Mountains is often wildly different than at our trailheads. Before you hike, check the Higher Summits forecast at mountwashington.org. Weather observers working at the nonprofit Mount Washington Observatory write this elevation-based forecast every morning and afternoon. Search and rescue teams, avalanche experts, and backcountry guides all rely on the Higher Summits forecast to anticipate weather conditions above treeline. You should too. Go to mountwashington.org or text forecast to 603-356-2137. Okay, here's your forecast for Friday, June 2nd and Saturday, June 3rd, 2023. I guess conditions are going to get pretty wild on Friday afternoon with instability leading to heavy rainfall, gusty winds, and lightning, possible hail. Friday night, temperatures will drop rapidly with rain showers continuing through overnight hours. And then Saturday morning, we're looking at summit fog. And then, despite the sunshine working in Saturday afternoon, there may be some lingering precipitation with snow transitioning in. So, rapidly dropping temps and wet conditions will allow exposure and hypothermia risks to increase rapidly with the onset of the weekend, if not adequately prepared. Additionally, the chance of freezing temperatures could allow runoff on trails to freeze, creating increasingly icy conditions. So Friday, in the clear under partly sunny skies, trending towards in the clouds with rain showers and a chance of isolated thunderstorms in the afternoon. Mid-50s with winds northwest shifting north at 15 to 30 miles an hour with gusts up to 45. Friday night, chance of rain and isolated thunderstorms, lower 40s. Winds north shifting northeast at 15 to 30 miles an hour, increasing to 25 to 40 miles an hour with gusts up to 65 miles an hour. And the wind chill drops into 25 to 35 above. Saturday, in the clouds with rain trending towards in and out of the clouds under partly sunny skies. High in the upper 30s, northeast winds at 25 to 40 miles an hour, decreasing to 20 to 35 miles an hour. And the wind chill then will be 20 to 30 above. All right, guys, be safe out there.
From the Woodpeckers Studio in the great state of New Hampshire, welcome to the Sounds Like a Search and Rescue podcast, where we discuss all things related to hiking and search and rescue in the White Mountains of New Hampshire. Here are your hosts, Mike and Stump.
Episode 108. I have to start the show off by showing you I got something.
What's that?
Do you have one of these?
4,000 Footer Club of the White Mountains, Appalachian Trail Mountain Club. What is it though? Is it just sort of like a Tolkien type of map, or?
Yeah. It's like it's the map of the 4,000 footers, and it's signed by the 4,000 Footer Club of the White Mountains Committee. So, very fancy. I didn't get to go to the ceremony, so I'm assuming this is what they give you when you go to the ceremony. So they just mailed mine because I was in Florida.
And what list was this for?
The 4,000 footer list.
Oh,
the regular
4Ks. Okay, gotcha.
Yep.
From quite a while ago, like last year.
Yeah, I finished it, but I didn't put my application until later. So
Gotcha.
Just catching up.
Yeah, congrats. I've got one of those laying around here somewhere. I'll have to dig it up. I have my, behind me, I have a little frame with the 2 AMC patches that they gave Mrs. Stomp and I. So, cool.
Yeah. So I'm building my resume.
Right.
I will say it is kind of fun. Like I went on to one of the there's 2 4,000 footer Facebook pages.
Yeah.
And one I like and one I don't like. And I'm sorry, I apologize to the admins. Like the one where Eric and Mike Cherum and that one I like. The other one I don't like so much because it seems like they don't allow any level of nonsense, so I don't like that. But it is fun going on that one and seeing like people that are just starting their 4,000 footer list and they're asking all kinds of cool questions and they're so proud of themselves and it's awesome. I'm like hitting I'm doing loves, and like there was a lady that carried her 3-year-old up the mountain and I was like, oh, I'm gonna hit love on that one. So.
She bred the love.
I'm like a new man with social media. I used to be such a bitter little jerk face, but now I'm like, the last 2-3 years, I'm like, I'm changed.
That's good. Yeah, there's some positive left out there.
Yeah, I think COVID changed me, Stomp.
Oh boy.
So anyway, but yeah, so I got my resume. I got the plaque. I got to hang it up. Mrs. Mike went and got a thingy for it, a holder thing. What are those called? A frame.
Yes, a frame.
A frame. She got a holder thing. Frame. So. Anyway, you want to do the show intro? Or you got anything else you want to get to before we get to the intro?
Let's just deep dive it.
Okay, so we got no guests tonight. We got guests coming up, but we're working on it. So, but welcome to episode 108 of the Sounds Like a Search and Rescue podcast. Tonight we play catch up on a few weeks worth of notable hikes. Every week, listeners can tag SLASR in their Instagram post in order to be considered for SLASR's notable hike of the week. We fell a bit behind over the past few weeks, so we thought that we would try something new. We're going to take the listeners all over the White Mountains on a deep dive of each of the notable tags submitted. So this list will cover an extraordinary broad palette of hiking adventures and give us a glimpse into the crushing peaks world of our awesome listeners. In addition to the deep dives on the notable hikes, we're going to talk about river floating, which is one of Stomp's pieces of expertise in the White Mountains. We're going to talk about summer hiking events. There's a lot going on in the next few months. There's controversy in Tamworth over Reach the Beach relay. There's a new FKT stomp for the Presidential Traverse. I bet you didn't know that one.
I had no idea. That's super cool.
Taylor Swift. We're going to talk Taylor Swift. We're going to talk about Alton Weagle Day on Mount Washington. I'm going to give everyone an update on Tuckerman Ravine. I'm going to give people an update on Lion's Head. We're going to go to Redstone Quarry, and then we're going to cover some recent search and rescue news. So settle down, relax. This is going to be a show where you're going to get some good ideas on where you can go hiking this summer. So I'm Mike.
And I'm Stomp. Let's get started. So Stomp, big question I want to start off with here is it's 90 degrees out today, so I got to get in. I was actually swimming last weekend in the pond.
It was great. But are we ready to float yet? Yeah, I was up in Maine. I was swimming. But can we float yet or what? What's going on?
Almost. I utilized a site that looks at the temperature at Lake Winnipesaukee, and I think we're hovering around 55 degrees, 55.4 degrees Fahrenheit at the moment. The max for June is generally like a 60-degree range, min 49, but right now they're recommending if you're not a seasoned swimmer, you might want to wear a wetsuit. So there's your indication right there. I generally wait till it's about 60 degrees before I'm hitting like the PEMI for floating and things like that. So we're almost there. This weekend might set us back a bit though with the rain coming.
Yeah. Is it rain? I looked at Lincoln and it was only going to be raining on Friday, and Saturday and Sunday looked okay.
I think it's tailing off Saturday morning.
Okay.
But we're getting a good inch or so over Friday to Saturday.
Okay. So, but you got 87 today, and then it's going to be 81 tomorrow. So, but then it's going to go down to 62. So, oh, wow. It's actually cold like the rest of the next week for the next 7 days.
Which is a good thing for running. It's like the last few days I've just been sitting at home going, oh, man, I'm losing ground. But we'll get back.
You got to run early. When do you run, actually?
I can't do early. That's too tough. I usually do afternoons, which is fine. It takes a little mental fortitude to muster the energy to do it, but it works out pretty well for me. I feel more warmed up. I feel as though I'm more prone to injury if I just cold turkey it in the morning. By the way, I am an older man. I'm 54. How old are you now?
I'm 51.
Oh, see, I get years on you.
I just people who exercise in the afternoon are that's just a different weird breed. I'm not that person. I got to get up and I'm going.
It's a different psychology.
Afternoon exercise. I used to do race. I did the Yankee homecoming race in Newburyport. It was a night race. It started at 6:00 and I never felt good in that. I hate running at night or late in the afternoon.
Well, the other thing too with afternoon is after you finish your day of work or whatever you're doing, it really is difficult to just bite the bullet and convince yourself to go do some athletic activity where you're going to be sweaty and uncomfortable for a while. That's my take on it anyway. So sometimes it can be a challenge to motivate.
Yeah. All right. Well, then, so the river's in the mid 50s. I can tell you that the lake that we were in, so Pequawket Pond in Brownfield, that was 66 on the dock. So we have a little floaty dock that we put out there. So it wasn't too bad. And it was one of those things where the lake was, you could tell the water was a lot colder under the surface, but the first foot or two was kind of, a different temperature than the lower sections of the pond. So it's getting to be, warmer deeper down, but it was still pretty cold. Yeah,
that's really comfy though. I mean, I think the max that Winnipesaukee gets is maybe 64 or in that range. So we're close.
Yeah, so we'll see. I feel like Winnipesaukee, I know I swam in Alton Bay. Is it Walton Bay? I can't remember where my cousin's place is, but they have a place that's it's in an inlet area, and the water's definitely warmer than 64. It gets up to 75, 80 degrees when we were there.
Interesting. Yeah, Alton Bay is where Mount Major is, and that is fairly narrow, a little waterway.
Yeah, they're in. Where's the bike event there? What's
Laconia.
That called? Laconia. Yeah, they're in Laconia in that area there. So
Paugus Bay.
Yeah, I think that's where they are. So, but it definitely stays warmer there. But anyway, so floating can happen maybe in the next week or two or something like that.
I would think so. Yeah, we're anxious to go. It's always a nice time.
Yep. Well, let me know when you go. I can't make any promises, but I'd love to join you guys again.
Absolutely.
All right, so now that Memorial Day has passed, Stomp, we want to give the listeners a reminder of all the events and activities that are happening related to the fundraising hikes that some of them are sponsors and then some of them are people we're partnering with, and then some of the races that are happening over the summer months here. So do you want to give a rundown on everything?
Yeah, let's do that. So this weekend is the next White Mountain Endurance race, and they do have some news that came through this week. They are now part of the, do you know how to pronounce this? Avarape? Is that the
I do not.
Race team that has basically taken over their operation, but the White Mountain Endurance crew will remain the managers for the race here in New England. I apologize if I butcher that name. I'm just doing this off the top of my head, but it's super cool. They're trying to establish a team of runners that will be part of their national team. So it's really exciting time for Christina and Rem. And so yes, this is the second race of the series, and it's June 3rd, Chicora Mountain Race. Race the Cog is June 24th. The Jigget Johnson Ultras are August 18th through 20th, and then finishing up the series will be Kilkenny Ridge Race, September 16th. The Mount Washington Road Race, June 17th. We may see some listeners there. We've been getting a couple messages in the background.
Yeah, you should take the banner there. We can set it up.
Yeah, absolutely. let's see, Seek the Peak for the Mount Washington Observatory. That's their big fundraiser. That's July 15th. I think Mr. Stomp and I might actually go to that. We've been chatting about it. And then backing up a little bit here, we have Emily's Hike. That is the fundraiser between Hiking Buddies and the Emily Sotelo Foundation. That will be July 29th. You can go find out more about that at hikingbuddies.org. And then the Alzheimer's Association has their 48 Peaks event on June 10th at Reckless at the Pint House. So we will see everybody there. I'm spinning some music for them, I believe, starting at about 3. So that's it, more or less it. I think there are other things happening, but those are the big charity and race events coming up.
Got it. So a lot of races, and then the big 3, Alzheimer's starting on June 10th, Seek the Peak on July 15th, and then Emily's Hike on July 29th. So
yeah,
a lot going on.
Wow. Yeah, good summer.
Yeah, well, speaking of races, Stomp, I caught some controversy in Tamworth about Reach the Beach relay. So you've never done Reach the Beach. I've done Reach the Beach probably about, 8 or 9 times at this point.
Okay. No, I have not.
So, yeah.
The idea terrifies me.
Yeah. So we've talked about this. It's a relay race. So you have a 12-person team. You usually get like 2 vans, and then you start from Brenton Woods, make your way down 302, cut across West Side Road, and then into Center Conway, through Madison, into Tamworth, into the Lakes region, and eventually make your way down through Bear Brook State Park and then into the Hampton Seacoast region. So I think it's about 200 miles or so. And what happens is you have a team. Each team member will run anywhere from like 3 to 7 mile legs, and then you pass it off to the next runner. One van will go with 6 runners, and then the other van will go sort of ahead and wait for the other van to get to where they're going to hand off, and then you just sort of, you have a little bit of a break during the night, and then you start up again. So it's a whole fun thing. It's a traveling circus. Over the years, there's been issues with certain towns having concerns about traffic, because typically you're going through each town for about 4 hours in the afternoon or nighttime. It's beneficial to the towns because a lot of the like Cub Scout groups and different groups can do fundraisers by selling food to the runners. Reach the Beach was run by a separate group for many years. They eventually sold out to Ragnar. Ragnar, I think, has gotten bigger and bigger over the years. So what's happened now is that Tamworth, which was Madison and Tamworth, were always difficult, and that we were always told to sort of, stay in the van, don't get out of the van, make your way through as quickly as you can, because the town folks really don't appreciate all the traffic. And I get it gets busy, but now what's happened is that Reach the Beach has come in front of the Board of Selectmen in Tamworth, and they voted 3-0 to deny a permit to allow Reach the Beach to come through the town.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it kind of stinks. And I think there's a couple things going on here from what I can tell from the article. One is, I think on the Reach the Beach side and the Ragnar side, it sounds like last year they did not put up some of the safety signs, and they didn't put up some of the lighting that they were supposed to put up. Typically, when you get through Tamworth, you're usually like late in the day. So Tamworth is usually one of those spots where it's like the last teams are coming through as things get dark. So it's a bad time. It's like 3 o'clock till about 8 o'clock in the afternoon. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people are like trying to get home and do whatever. So I think that there was a miss last year by the crew that's supposed to set everything up logistically on the race. They didn't do everything they committed to do. And then at the same time, it sounds like one of the selectmen got stuck in traffic. There was a few other citizens that complained, and it was enough for the Tamworth Board of Selectmen to vote no. So they're not going to allow them to go through the town.
Shame. Wow.
Shame. Yeah.
Amazing.
So it's interesting, man. I mean, I'm of two minds of it. Like the other thing is they're saying the race has changed. Like the people have become more entitled and all this stuff. Like I don't really know. I don't see it that way. I think that it's been sort of the same vibe since I've ever done the race. But I think that there is an inherent bias. I mean, we all know people that they complain about cyclists on the road. They complain about anything that disrupts their traffic situation. Like they don't like tourists coming up in the summertime and all this stuff. So sure. I think there's a little bit of that sort of
makes sense.
That vibe going on. But I don't know what Reach the Beach is going to do. They're going to have to reroute rewrote the course, I guess.
Yeah, I would assume so. I mean, it's so silly. It's what? How many days? One day? If that?
It's one day. It's like basically 4 hours or so.
It's not much of an ask.
No, not at all. But it's like these small towns. I mean, they get these people on the board of select. I mean, we see what's happening in Conway, where they're going after like this small donut shop,
right?
Giving them a hard time. So it's like a lot of times the people that join these board of selectmen, I know in Brownfield, in Freiburg, like there's a lot of shenanigans that go on with the work that they've done in with Nestle and the water situation up there. So who knows? I don't know. I don't know what goes on in these small town politics, but I think that it's just difficult. Like you've got to kiss the ring for certain people, or they've got a lot of power to just sort of make your life miserable.
Right. Well, yeah, you can always vote them out too.
You can vote them out. So
that's what you can do.
Yep. See, but I got a feeling that there's probably more locals that want to have an easy drive on a Friday afternoon versus, people that are going to say like, I want to support like all the massholes coming up here and screwing up traffic. So,
oh boy, that's too much.
Yes,
crazy.
All right, so next topic here, Stump. We're going to spend a lot of time talking about hikes that you should think about doing, but you pulled an article that came through drivingandvibing.com, which is definitely a clickbait article, I can tell already.
It's total clickbait, but it came from a listener, actually. So this is from Driving and Vibing, and they are a newsletter for, it's apparently the favorite of over 100,000 campers and RVers. So there's your target audience, okay? And the 5 reasons you should avoid the White Mountains is the title of this article. And, if you're a hiker, there's a few things in here that would make sense, just in terms of training, planning your trip, be in shape, that type of thing. But right off the bat, the article starts with, the White Mountains can be dangerous. You can disappear and die, pretty much. Essentially, that's my summary of the article. Now, they do list 5 reasons why you should avoid the whites, and let's check them out. So number 1 is rugged White Mountain trails. Remember, this is for the RV population, so it's sort of a weird article. Accurate, yeah. White Mountain trails, accurate, rugged, yeah, I would think so. They actually go up in zigzag patterns. Can you believe it?
It's amazing. They call them they're downright ornery.
Yeah, downright ornery. That's right.
Do you remember the lady who wrote the not joking letter to the editor about I think she was hiking Webster or Jackson or something, and she was basically like, you people should be ashamed of yourselves, like that you haven't fixed these trails and that they're so dangerous.
Yeah. Right.
She's from Mississippi or somewhere.
Yeah. Now check this. This is number 2 is remoteness of the White Mountains. And this paragraph is assuming that you're going to hike the entire span of the White Mountains, because in paragraph 2 here, it says, hiking alone is incredibly dangerous. Your best bet is to go in groups in case you need to find help. This could take over 72 hours. Like, I don't understand what they're trying to say here.
Yeah.
So anyway, remoteness.
Yeah, I know of no case where someone's waited 72 hours for a rescue team.
See, the last sentence, it says, estimate the time it'll take you to get from point A to B, then double it.
Well, then that's not an estimate.
Right. Oh, boy. Number 3, White Mountains weather.
Okay.
It's all right. Yeah, fatalities happen. They talk about the fatalities in cold weather, hypothermia, frostbite, no matter the season. So that's a good one. And this one kills me. They mention bears. And they basically say, hey, listen, bears this is their home. It's not your home. It's their backyard. Although the attacks are rare, they do happen. So they give you tips on how to avoid provoking a bear, wave your arms, walk back slowly, and never feed bears, that type of thing. So number 4 is bears.
Rawr.
I think that's more of a clickbait item, to be honest with you.
Did you hear my bear roar?
Yeah, I did.
Is that what a bear sounds like? I don't know what a bear sounds like.
If I heard that, I'd be terrified.
Roar! Give me food, Stomp.
And then, of course, number 5, be in shape to hike the White Mountains. I mean, they can't argue with that. And they recommend if you're new to hiking, stick with 1,000 feet or less. Start with short day hikes. Makes sense. They talk about the, Mount Washington summit being as high as the Empire State Building, 3 times the height of that. So is that correct? Wait, climbing the Empire State stairs 3 times. Wow, that's an interesting statistic. Yeah, so, I mean, just don't do that first if you're a newbie, essentially. And that's about it. But it's a funny article, and I do not recall who sent that in, but thank you. We appreciate when people send us stuff. Some of them are pretty funny.
Yeah, as that article says, do not hike the White Mountains, period.
Right.
Me and Stomp need them to ourselves the entire summer, so stay away.
5 reasons from driving and vibing.
Yes. Yeah. All right, Stomp. So you pulled this next one. So I feel like, didn't we cover this case already? This is...
Didn't ring a bell. It's a mountain biker.
All right, maybe this is a different one. So this is Bellingham hiker pleads guilty to stabbing a mountain biker.
Crazy.
In the right-of-way. I feel like we've covered this one before, but maybe we didn't. So this guy's 72 years old, a hiker. So he's a grumpy, if you're 72 years old and you're getting to the point where you get so mad that you got to stab someone, like you got some deep-seated anger issues. You
know what I think this is? I think in April, the 72-year-old pleaded guilty, but let's just go over it again because it is pretty interesting.
Yeah. So it's a right-of-way dispute. So this happened in March 2021.
Bicycle rights.
Yeah. It's a civil case. So a civil case has just begun. But it looks like the guy that stabbed the mountain biker is 72 years old. He pled guilty in April in Superior Court to 3rd-degree assault and a felony. So he was sentenced the same day to 30 days in jail with the option to serve the time through electronic home monitoring. So I guess he went into the home monitoring program on May 2nd and will complete his sentence by yesterday, so May 31st.
May 31st, yeah.
He pled down from 1st-degree assault with a deadly weapon and a felony in possession of a deadly weapon. So he was put a no-contact order in place between him and the victim. So the victim is a 68-year-old mountain biker. So this is 2 old dudes just like raging at each other. So
crazy.
Yeah, I guess the DA, the prosecuting attorney, said it was clear that the parties saw the case and potential outcomes quite differently. The hiker who stabbed him has maintained that he acted in self-defense. The prosecution felt comfortable or confident that they would be able to attack that. But I guess the parties went back and forth for 2 years to finally come to a resolution. And as things got closer to a trial, I think the reality of what a conviction on the original charge meant started to set in for a 72-year-old dude. He could be in prison the rest of his life. So I think that they basically just settled it. I guess the 68-year-old victim said he got stabbed 6 times. And, one of the last times he was stabbed, the 2 men struggled. The knife grazed his bone and severed muscles and one of the 3 main nerves on his arm. He said without stimulation, the muscles in his hand have started to degenerate. So he's had 2 surgeries, and doctors have concluded that there's nothing much they can do. He's got a dormant left hand that'll never be the same. So no full recovery for this dude.
Yeah.
And then there's some dispute over who was the aggressor. So...
yeah, exactly. Self-defense.
The 72-year-old hiker is listed as the aggressor, but he says that the cyclist should have yielded to him.
Yeah, interesting. Well, there you go.
So it's on to civil court. Yeah,
it's unfortunate. It seems like it's totally avoidable. It seems ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't know. Old dudes better learn their lesson and calm down. Calm down. Just say hi, step aside. It's no big deal.
Exactly.
All right. So next up, one of the listeners, Stacy Tardif. Hello, Stacy.
Hey, Stacy.
We appreciate you, all your support over the years. She sent in an article about how we talked about a record-breaking Sherpa who had hiked, I think, 28 times Mount Everest. Is that right, Stomp?
Correct. Yeah, he has the record.
Yeah. So Stacy sent in an article that totally makes, we were all proud of the guy, and now we're totally bummed out. So thanks, Stacy.
Well, just recently I was posting those pictures of the long lines and the trash, and it's such a degrading culture out there, it seems. And then you have this interview from this fella who's saying that there's no future, in his opinion, for Sherpa lifestyle. It's not, Sherpa is it an ethnicity? If I remember correctly, it's not an occupation. It's more like either an ethnicity or a custom or religious belief. It's one of those things. I apologize if I don't know that exactly.
It's an ethnic group living in the Everest region, and they've always been the backbone of mountain expeditions. So they fix ropes, ladders, carry load. So it's like interchangeable, but essentially they're an ethnic group, but they're also, it's become like nomenclature for anybody that sort of helps out with big mountaineering expeditions.
Yeah, so his take on it is that there is no real future for Sherpas. There's no insurance. They're not getting paid enough. So it's a pretty interesting article. So he's saying that the younger generation, they're just leaving for Western opportunities, doing similar things, mountaineering. So it's interesting. It's sad to see that.
Yeah, it is sad that there's not like a career in that. But he talks about how he's at least made enough money to send he's got one kid that's like in information technology and another one that's studying like hospitality, and he's able to move out of his small village and move to a bigger city where there's more opportunity for the family.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, tough one. It's a risky adventure. I mean, it talks about 3 Sherpas died last month in Khumbu.
Yeah.
So that's the whole other side of it. So anyway, we don't want to be down and depressing. So
it was. I'm giving Stacey a hard time, but it's a good. It's a really interesting story. So and the other thing that stands out here is that they make between $2,500 and $16,000 depending on experience during a single expedition. So I'm assuming that you tip the Sherpas after your expedition. I don't know how that works, or if it's all just rolled into the fee.
That's a really good question.
Yeah,
I would think so. I would hope so.
I would hope so too.
Yeah.
So, all right. So next up stop, we've got a new FKT that I picked up here. I was doing a little research on the FKT, the fastest known time.
Yeah.
And there is a new fastest known time in the category of mixed gender team, going southbound on the Presidential Traverse. So I thought this was interesting. So
okay,
and this is a supported hike. So I can't remember what that all means, but it's a supported hike. So the unsupported fastest known time is held by Jack Coonsley, which is 3 hours, 38 minutes, and 44 seconds. And this was in 2021. That's southbound. And then Lindsay Webster has 4 hours, 33 minutes, 39 seconds, also from 2021.
That's cruising.
Yeah. And then there's this mixed gender team, which is Paul Andron, Sasha Carlisle, Cole Chuburk, Spencer McEwen, and Laurent Lecordier. And they completed this on May 27th, so this weekend, in 14 hours, 14 minutes, and 5 seconds, southbound. So
wow. Interesting.
Yeah, so interesting. I didn't even know this was a category, so
Me neither.
They must have put in for this as a new category. And I feel like, it's a good time. It's certainly an impressive time. But I do feel like if somebody's looking to do a mixed gender team, I don't know the rules on this one. I don't know if you have to have, like right now they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people. I don't know if you can do a mixed gender team with just 2 people, but I feel like this one could be, achievable for somebody.
Oh, sure. I would think so.
Yeah, 14 hours. I mean, it's a great time. No knock on it at all, but I think that like you could probably get a team together if you're a listener and go for it.
I would think so. That's a good idea. I'm going to leave that up to you.
Yeah. We'll see if I can recruit my sister-in-law is trying to get me to do the Kilkenny Ridge race. Okay. But I'm going to be in Yosemite, so maybe I'll tell her, like, let's go for this one. Team McLaughlin. We can do the supported mixed gender team.
Yeah. So divide that out. So what is it? 35 30 miles, 31 miles
divided
by the hours, and that'll give you your speed. I'd be curious to see how fast they were moving.
Yeah. Knowing me, I would screw up the route here. I know you got to go over Mount Clay.
You got to go over all the summits for that to count.
Yeah.
Like
please make sure to summit Madison, Adams, Jefferson, Clay, Washington, Monroe, Eisenhower, and Pierce.
Correct.
And then I guess you don't have to summit Franklin. Almost everyone stays on the Crawford path. So,
Right.
Yeah, we'll see. Hey, one thing I noticed is our friend Christina from White Mountain Endurance, she used to hold the FKT for the women's unsupported southbound. Mm-hmm. So she had it in 2014, so that's good. But it's gone down about an hour from 2014 through 2021, it's gone down about an hour on the female side.
Wow. Incredible.
And then from 2013 to 2021, it's gone down about an hour on the men's side as well.
Isn't that amazing? It's getting faster and faster.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Hey, what's that sound? It must be time for the pop culture segment with Mike and Stump.
All right, Stomp. So next up, we've got some pop culture talk. So you want to talk about House of Dragons?
Well, this is just a little side documentary that I ran across over the long weekend, and for the Lord of the Rings. Sorry, that's a slip. The House of Dragons. It's called the House of Dragons, the house that dragons built, and it's not the post-show reviews or anything like that, but they're just standalone documentaries that cover more or less each episode, but they're just strictly from behind the scenes. So it was really, really, really fascinating. Highly recommended. It's just incredible what they do to pull off what you see in the final product. It's awesome.
Yeah, I'll check that out. I'm interested.
Yeah.
And then, you have an article here about Taylor Swift. So Taylor Swift came to Gillette. That was huge.
This is the weirdest thing ever.
Yeah, apparently fans are experiencing post-concert amnesia.
Isn't that great? You pay thousands of dollars and you don't remember the tour at all. Oh my goodness. Apparently it's a syndrome. Multiple fans are experiencing signs of amnesia after attending the concert. And people are saying that post-concert amnesia is real. What's your take on this? I've never experienced anything like that. That sounds very strange to me. Maybe sensory overload.
I don't want the Swifties to come for me.
Yeah.
But I will say that in my opinion, there's a certain type of Swiftie fan that may be highly dramatic and prone to, making claims that are sort of highly dramatic.
Oh, so, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, I think they're, like they just want sort of the attention of the Swiftie thing to keep going. So they come up with this nonsense about amnesia and, or I don't know, maybe they were drinking too much. Do people drink at the Taylor Swift concert?
Yeah, I'm sure there's a percentage, a minority percentage perhaps.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. In fact, I do remember I went and got a margarita when I went to the Speak Now tour in 2011. Or maybe I think it's 2011. So I did get a margarita on that one.
There you go. Hanging out with all the older parents at the bar.
Yeah. Well, my kids were young, but like we were on the floor seats, and it was a pretty good concert. I remember it, so I don't have Taylor Swift amnesia.
Huh. Crazy. Yeah, this article is weird. It does go into the biology behind this supposed phenomena, so I'll leave that to the listeners, but they're getting into the whole amygdala thing and stress hormones and you name it.
I'll put it in the show notes. People can write in if you experience Taylor Swift amnesia.
Well, I think it's great for parents now that, if this comes around again and your child wants to see Taylor or somebody else for thousands of dollars, you can say,
just tell them they went.
Yeah, exactly. You already saw it.
Yeah, perfect.
Oh my God. So that's Excellent. It for pop culture. Pretty quiet weekend. Baselate Coasters is up first. They create unique, beautiful, functional, and expertly laser engraved coasters with topographic maps of the 4,000 footers of New Hampshire and more. These coasters are handmade on Cape Cod from slate, quarried in the United States, and provide a durable and heat-resistant surface for your drinks. Each coaster features intricate detailing of any mountain topography for the location of your choice. Baselate Coasters will work with you on your custom hand-designed coasters for any street or topographic map. Let's just say anywhere on Earth or beyond. Visit baselate.com today to explore a full range of topographic map coasters. Use the code SLASR10 at checkout for 10% off of your first order. And then we also have a word from Vaucluse Gear. Want ventilation and less sweat on your back when backpacking? Check out Vaucluse Backpack Ventilation Gear. Back sweat sucks in all types of weather and hikes. It's uncomfortable and a risk factor, causing your core temperature to fluctuate if it doesn't evaporate off your back. Vaucluse's ultralight ventilation backpack frame is an accessory that installs in your favorite pack 18 liters up to 55 liters, creating a ventilating airflow gap between you and your pack. They are releasing their Generation 2 frame now. It only weighs 4 ounces and handles the heaviest pack loads. So whether you're in hot or cold temps or have a pack with a curved frame, the ultralight ventilation backpack frame is a real game changer for ventilation and airflow. So visit VaucluseGear.com to order a ventilation frame today. Vaucluse is a fan and sponsor of this product. Of this podcast. I'm going to be editing the hell out of this. Use promo code SLASHER for a $10 discount.
All right, stickers and then clings. What's going on with the cling order? We got that. Are we almost ready?
I have not received word. They said about a week ago that they would be done and would be shipped. I have not heard an update, unfortunately.
We'll get those clings out shortly, and you can get free stickers at Ski Fanatics and then also Spinner's Pizza in Andover or North Andover.
It's Andover, right off of Dascom Road exit off of 93 South. Say hi to Dolls and Pops. And Ski Fanatics, they're great. I mean, they have a whole bunch of stickers over there, but they're right off of exit 23 on 93 North in Campton. And if anybody's interested, you can always look into advertising options with the podcast. Just drop us an instant message on Instagram or Facebook, or email at us at SLASRPodcast.com or at gmail.com. I think I might just go take a nap. Can you finish this for me?
Wake up, Stomp. Wake up. Hey, speaking of stickers, I'm in an argument with Mrs. Mike. She won't let. I got a new car. It's not a new car. It's a pre-owned car, but it's a new to me car, and I want to put a SLASR sticker on it, and she won't allow me.
Oh wow! Not even on the glass?
Yeah, she's like, it looks stupid, and I'm like, how dare you?
I'm not getting in the middle of this one.
I'm just putting it on there. I'm not gonna. It's my car, right?
Yeah, if it's your car, that carries weight. Yeah. I would say it's a yay on the glass, but nay anywhere else.
Yeah, well, we'll see. I'll let you know how it goes. But I ended up giving my daughter my car. So the whole car thing, I had a couple of people reach out to me about like buying cars, and I appreciate it. But ultimately, like I ended up giving my car to my daughter, and I bought myself a newer car.
Oh, great.
Yeah. So
is it what kind is it? Like an SUV or?
It's a Subaru. So my wife's like, yeah, we get it, Mike. You hike. You don't have to buy a car that tells everyone you hike too.
Oh, that cling's going to look good on those windows.
Oh, yeah. I can't wait to get those windows smashed.
Oh, boy. Smash your podcast.
Yep. So anyway, but what have you been up to as far as hiking goes, Stomp?
Oh, boy. Well, you know the story. It's just mostly running at this point. But Mrs. Stomp and I did get out on Welsh Dickey over the long weekend. And it was really neat. I told her, let's just wait till the afternoon. She had her reservations because it was the weekend. And it was probably going to be busy. But I think we kicked off like around 1-ish or so. And the lot was, I don't know, maybe 10 cars. Not too bad for the start of the long weekend. And we had lunch and some beers at the top of Dickey on the northern ledges of Dickey. It was super, super cool. I got into some deep conversations up there. She's thinking about uploading my voice and likeness and memory up to the cloud when I pass. Isn't that cool? So she can talk to me all the time.
Well, I think about that with AI is especially like we get this podcast, so we have a huge library of audio from ourselves. So
I know. Well, that's what she said. She's like, I've got all the podcasts.
Exactly. Like you could just like basically upload all that audio and then put it in a large language model. And then, you could set your AI assistant or whatever it is to be your loved one's voice and then interact with them. Because I can tell you, like years ago, my mom gave me like we had them on VCR tape and then she put them on disc and then I uploaded them into the cloud. Yeah. But like listening to my grandparents talk from like Christmas Eve videos and stuff that we had, it was like jarring after not hearing them speak for like 10 or 15 years to hear them talk again.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually heard a podcast today that was talking about if you can do this, then why can't you modify it so that you get rid of the annoying portions of a person's personality? So it's like a custom version of your spouse or whoever without the bad parts.
Yeah, I don't know. But I do wonder, like, what would be the point of that? You want the true self.
Yeah. It's great. So yeah, that's our hike more or less. It was just awesome. Then we came down and played this new game where we were trying to guess how many cars were going to be in the trailhead lot. And I guessed six initially. Mrs. Stomp guessed 8, and then changed her mind and changed to 6, and she won because there was like 8 cars at the trailhead. It was pretty cool, neat game.
That's good. That's good. That's better than her talking about how you're dying. I double check, make sure she didn't take out a life insurance policy on you.
I know, right?
Right.
Oh, goodness. How about you?
Sticky's great. I was on the move. I did Mount Washington on Saturday. So I got up at 4:30 in the morning or 4 in the morning from Maine, drove over. I got to Pinkham Notch parking lot at 5:30. So Pinkham Notch parking lot is on Route 16, on the west side of Mount Washington, or the southern side. And I went from Pinkham Notch. I saw one other guy, a trail runner, heading up Tuckerman. And then I actually veered to the right and I went Old Jackson, which Old Jackson is a section of trail that goes from Pinkham Notch to the auto road, about 1.8 miles up on the auto road. Yeah. So I ran. I went pretty light, but I still carried my 25-liter fast pack because I had some warm clothes that I needed. And I ran up Old Jackson. Then I did from mile 1.8 on the auto road up to about mile 5.5. And then I was kind of like, that's it for me from running. I started just kind of walking up casually. And so it was pretty good. I mean, for anybody that's running the race, I think my advice to you is just to expect mile or elevation 3,000 to 4,000, I think is the steepest part overall of the 1,000-foot elevation, believe it or not. So that is a grind.
And that comes up to the hairpin where you come into the 4 mile mark. Is that right? Is that what you're thinking? That comes
up to, exactly. So the 4 mile mark at 4,000 foot is around right above tree line where you start to see the Great Gulf, and then it kind of S turns into the higher elevation. And now they've got what used to be the dirt road section that brings you up to Nelson Crag. That is now paved, and then you get around the hairpin turn up higher, and then I was about halfway up that stretch where I stopped.
Yeah.
And then as I was running, and then I just walked up the rest of the way, and it was fine. I think I was doing pretty good pace, but I was kind of like, all right, I can run for 5.5 going uphill, so I'll be fine.
Oh, yeah.
For the race. And then it was Alton Weagle Day. So we've talked about Alton Weagle Day, but basically Alton Weagle Day is one day of the year where the auto road allows for alternative ascents up the mountain. So typically it's like people that are dressed up in unique costumes, or they're doing a jump rope up the mountain, or they're roller skating or whatever. But this year there was a group of about 20 young people that were going up the auto road in electric electric unicycles. So these are probably up to your thigh height, and you can they're unicycles, but they're electric, and they go anywhere from like, I think about 20 to 30 miles an hour from what I could tell. And one guy made his way past me, and then I was like, wow, what is that? And then a bunch of them made it up, and they all stopped at, overlooking the Great Gulf at around, I don't know, 6,000 feet or so. There's a little turnoff. So I made my way up there. I was talking to them. I was mansplaining like all the presidential range to them, because none of them had any clue about like what those other mountains were. And then, I was talking to them. So they all came up from like Boston, and they were doing it, and they found out about Alton Weagle Day. So it was pretty cool. And then I left, and then I got some good video footage of them on the auto road that I posted on our Instagram account and stuff. So
were they wearing helmets on those unicycles?
They were wearing helmets, and they had radios so they could talk to each other.
Interesting. Huh.
And I asked them, I was like, well, are you getting a ride down?
Ooh.
And they said, nope, they've got brake systems on those, and they're taking them down the hill too.
No thanks.
No thanks. No thanks. So,
holy moly.
Yeah.
Wow.
So most of them were on the electric unicycles, but there was a couple that had like the electric scooters.
Sure, yeah.
And then there was a couple that had the one-wheel skateboards. So the difference between the one-wheel skateboards is that like you've got one wheel and you're sort of like goofy-footed on the skateboards, whereas the unicycles, you're forward-facing.
Yeah, and leaning somewhat forward.
Exactly. Yeah, so
Wow.
you lean forward to move, lean back to brake.
I wouldn't mind the skateboard version. That'd be neat.
Yeah. And they made their way up. One guy actually had a large remote control car that he was on the electric unicycle, and then he was controlling a remote control car in front of him as he was driving.
Just in case he bails out and has to go back down.
I don't know. It was a small remote control car, so it wouldn't have been able to. So anyway, I make it up to the top. I was there too early, and the building wasn't open up. So I just had my breakfast and hung out. I got a picture of on the summit sign and all that. And then these guys were all up there by the time I got up there, and they all made their way up to the observatory deck. Mm-hmm. And there was like 20 guys riding around on their electric unicycles on that decking part where they come out and do the weather readings and stuff.
Right.
Which was kind of funny. It was, it was interesting. So
a sight.
Yeah, it was interesting. But then I sat on one of the picnic tables, and the guy that I saw at the bottom, he had made his way up to the summit, and I talked to him, and I was like, oh, how was Tuckerman coming down? Because I had realized that I had forgotten to actually check the reports on whether Tuckerman was open or closed. So I was like, I'm just going to go down Lion's Head probably, but I was like, I'll just go down, scope out Tuckerman and see what it's like. Mm-hmm. So he told me, he's like, he had a hell of a time coming up Tuckerman's. He was like, it was super sketchy, didn't have spikes on him. And he was like, yeah, I don't know about going back down that way. So I was like, all right, well, I'll probably go Lion's Head. But I was like, I'll go to the lower portion just to scope it out to see maybe this guy was exaggerating. So big mistake on my part. So made my way down Crawford Path and then looped back, went over to Tuckerman's Cutoff. And then instead of staying high and going towards Lion's Head, I went down towards the junction of Tuckerman. And then as I was getting there, the guy that I had talked to, he had made his way down. He was an ultra runner. Mm-hmm. Really cool guy from Italy. His name is Ermano. And we were talking, and we were kind of looking at our situation. And I was like, well, I really don't feel like climbing up another 400 feet to get back up to the higher section to cut over to Lion's Head. Yeah. We were faced with cutting across a large snowfield. So we just basically kind of talked to each other, and I was like, what do you think? And he was like, well, I made it up, Tuckerman, and he's like, it was super sketchy. And I was like, why don't we make our way across? I didn't have spikes with me. I didn't bring them because I was like, I'm not going to need them. Mm-hmm. So we made our way across one snowfield. Then we were able to go down in between the two snowfields, and then we cut down the lower portion of the second snowfield, and then got to the lower portion of the junction of Tuckerman's, and I think it's whatever that trail is that gets you to Lion's Head on the lower section of the bowl. And then we made our way over to Lion's Head from there. But it was a little sketchy. Ermano was showing me as we went over to Lion's Head, we stopped and he showed me the route that he went up Tuckerman's. I mean, Tuckerman's is closed. Like there's no no safe way to get up there without spikes, but he did make it up. And he was showing me that he went way left of the waterfall and then had to cut over. So he was using like some of the ski trails to get up.
Wow, interesting. Yeah, that's crazy. Did you see anybody? Is there enough snow to ski or no?
There was. So when we got to Lion's Head, we went down, and then a bunch of people coming up, like so many people going up Lion's Head. People like, how much farther is it to the summit? And I was like, whoa, dude, you're like way far away. But then when we got to Tuckerman, there must have been probably like 50 to 100 people hiking up that we passed that were bringing skis and snowboards.
Oh my God, it's still cranking, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand how it just doesn't seem fun to me. Like you're hiking up and skiing down for 5 seconds and then.
Yeah. It is interesting. Crazy culture. Is the snow bridge there? It must be.
I don't know. I didn't get down there, but everything's covered in snow, so I think it's gonna be another couple of weeks.
Wow, fascinating. Yeah, I mean, it's just they get buried.
Yeah. But my friend Hermano now, he was fascinating. This guy, we got to get him on. He's done the Moab 240. He's done all kinds. He was talking about David Goggins, the ultra runner. He's done all kinds of ultra races. Yeah. He was talking about how him and his friend got like picked off a mountain when they were 10 years old in Italy because they needed a search and rescue. So it was a good story. So I'm gonna, yeah, it's fine. I'm going to call him up. You'll love him. He'll have some good stories.
Yeah, sounds great.
Yep. So shout out to Hermano. I met a new friend, which was great. Cool. It was awesome having someone to hike down with.
That's fantastic. Yeah, sounds like a great time.
Yep. Yeah. And then on Sunday, I went over to Redstone Quarry, which is in North Conway. So this is a mountain biking and hiking area. And it is, I definitely highly recommend people check this place out. It is behind the Walmart in North Conway off of 16. And it connects with a walking path that's paved that actually goes from the Walmart in North Conway, follows North-South Road, and takes you up to Mount Cranmore. So it's a paved walking trail or biking trail. But if you skip the walking trail and you just go straight, it takes you into Redstone Quarry, which is where they had previously basically turned all of the large granite. It's basically a granite processing place where they had these huge lathes, and they would take these big chunks of granite and spin them on the lathes, and they would make all the columns that they use for supporting. They have one column that's actually laying on the ground that was supposed to be used in like Grand Central Station. It's already polished and everything. It's super, super interesting.
Wow, that's nice. Yeah, I saw your pictures. They were pretty neat.
Yeah, so there's abandoned buildings that you can go in. There's like all this old equipment of like lathes, and like there's these things called derrick cables, which are these large cables that you use to haul heavy items up and down the mountain. And then there's this quarry section that looks like it reminds me of like the movie set from the Goonies where the sunken ship is. It's like got like these large like derrick cables and poles stuck in it, and it's got water covering it, and it's got these large granite slabs that just go right into the water. It's a fascinating place.
Super cool. Yeah, we'll do next time I'm over there.
Yep. So Redstone Quarry is highly recommended. And it's great for the kids. So if you have kids, there's no elevation. It's a flat hike. It's got like all these signs explaining the history around it. And it's a good way. I think we did about 2.5 miles, and the whole family went. I got my brother-in-law and his girlfriend and the kids and everybody. It was fun.
Cool.
Yeah.
SLASR's hiking topic of the week.
And this segment's brought to you by 48 Peaks Alzheimer's. Hike to fight Alzheimer's with 48 Peaks. Join over 450 hikers this summer as we hike New Hampshire's 4,000 footers, or create your own hiking adventure from a 52 of the View to a Prezi Traverse, or climb your favorite mountain. We'll be hosting our annual hiker celebration party at Reckless on June 10th. So make sure you register for 48 Peaks to join us. Go to alts.org/48peaks for all the details. All right. Yeah. So, listeners probably realize that we have not gotten to the notable hikes for a couple episodes now, and they just built up, and we just had this idea, hey, why don't we make a segment out of it and take a Four Corners approach to New Hampshire and see where people are going and check out some of these cool hikes. So we're going to give you a couple little tips and pointers and trailheads and all kinds of stuff. Some of them we weren't really aware of, so we may have to skip a few. So if you didn't make the list, don't be offended. We just had no clue where it was and everything else, or there was just insufficient information.
Yeah, well, we'll call those. So there's 3 hikes that we were kind of like, yeah, we haven't done those, so we can't really speak intelligently about them. So we'll call those out at the end and then promise to do a little bit of homework. And, I feel like we've both been around a lot of areas of the Whites, but like it just goes to show you that you can't cover every area. So
yeah, for sure. So number 1, we have a submission by Liz Fay. And Mike, I think you've been up this more than I have. I've traversed this region, but I have not done this trail. And this is the Carter Ledge Trail to Middle Sister.
Yes. So I have done this hike, I think 3 times, maybe 2 times. So I would say that this is probably one of the best trails in the Whites. And the reason I like it so much is that it has just a lot of open ledges. It's got probably like 1.5 miles of sort of open ledges. And a lot of it, you look down into the, the Piper Trail sort of valley area there for Chicora. And then you can also look straight up into the White Mountains and see Mount Washington and everything. And then it's got some scary ledges too. So it's got everything that you want. As far as the trailhead goes, you can hit this in two directions. You can either park at the White Ledge Campground, which is a campground off of Route 16 in Tamworth. It's if you're heading north, it's on the left-hand side. It's past the Piper Trail. And there's probably about 6 or 8 parking spots for hikers there, so it is a little bit tight. It's a campground. It's great if you're going to stay there overnight, but for day hikers, there's probably like 6 or 8 spots, so you do want to get there early or midweek or something like that. And that section is pretty much open forest as you start, and then eventually you'll connect with you'll connect with the trail, and it's a nice option because it allows you to do it as a loop trail if you want. So you can go up Carter Ledge and then come down Middle Sister Trail, which is a fun loop. And then the other direction that you can get to Carter Ledge is you can park at the Piper Trailhead and then make your way up the Piper Trail, and then eventually just take a right at the I think the second trail junction, and that will get you to the lower portion of, I think that's the lowest portion of Carter Ledge. Let me just double check that. Oh no, actually it's Nickerson Ledge. So you just turn off into Nickerson Ledge, and then that will bring you to Carter Ledge Trail from there. And then this is a terrifying 25 trail, and then it takes you to a 52 with a view. So there's a couple of lists that you can do. And in my opinion, like I've done this hike going up Carter Ledge to Middle Sister and then over to Chicora and then back down Middle Sister Trail as a loop to come out of White Ledge. And then I've done from Piper, I've done like a big loop where I've cut over to Carter Ledge, gone up to Middle Sister, over to Mount Chicora, and then back down Piper Trail as a big loop. So take your pick.
Let's see, number 2. This is submitted by One With The Speed, and this is a beautiful loop called Mount Martha, aka Cherry Mountain, and Owl's Head. And it's not the Permy-Jawasset Owl's Head, it's a different one. This hike is out by Jefferson, if I remember correctly. So this is a nice one, Mike. You've done this with me and Nobby. It's roughly a 6.4 mile out and back loop. It's not so much a loop. You've got a little bit of a road walk there. And you can either start by ascending up to Cherry or Mount Martha, or from the northern end and go up Owl's Head itself. But this hike is really, it's well known for its really expansive views of the presidential range from the summits. And Owl's Head in particular is beautiful. The gain is 2,480 feet. So, that's pretty modest, but don't be fooled. It's a moderate too difficult to hike. It's just very steep from either approach, whether you're going up Mount Martha or Owl's Head. Be aware of that. There are some notable things you can do. You can check out the Cherry Mountain Slide, I believe it's called. Is that the Cherry Mountain Slide? Yep. There's a historical marker for that, and it's also a connection for the Coas Trail. So there's a lot of cool things you can check out there.
Yeah, this is a good hike too if you're like just getting back into it and you want to get back in, get your hiking legs going. So the trailhead is off of 115. So basically it's like go to Twin Mountain, and then instead of taking a right and heading over to like Zealand Road and Britton Woods and Sugarloaf and that whole area, just go straight on Route 3 like you are going into Jefferson, and then you actually just take a right on Route 115. And then the trailhead's on the right-hand side, Cherry Mountain Trailhead, and then this is if you have a car spot, it's good. You can drop a car off at the Owl's Head Trailhead, which is probably about 2-3 miles down the road. Or if you want to do an out and back, just leave it at Cherry Mountain Trailhead, and then you go up. You'll get to the trail junction, take a left, and you can hike to Mount Martha, and then head over to Owl's Head. And this place has amazing views. This is where I think the original settlers had bypassed the White Mountains. They had come in from the north, and this is where they got high elevation ground, and they saw into the notch and realized that there was a way to pass through. So this is, there's a lot of history on this area. This was where the settlers really figured out, like, okay, this is where I need to point in order to get to that notch, to get through Crawford Notch.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's beautiful. It's such a great area.
Yeah, awesome foliage hike too.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot of hardwoods down there. It's actually really funny. That is, the view you're looking down into the valley. That's a lot of area that we cover with the snowmobiling during the winter, and it's just absolutely beautiful in there. It's a very cool spot.
So what's next? We got Mount Washington stop?
Yeah. Back to the old big guy. So we have Mount Washington via Ammo and Jewel Trail Loop, and this was submitted by Sharpen the Sword. So I consider this one to be one of the more popular routes up and down Mount Washington. So the Ammonoosuc Ravine Trail is accessed off of the Cog Road, or the access road, which you would take from Fabian's off of Route 302. And the trailhead is down pretty much 6 miles down just before the Cog Railroad on the right. And you can park there and take a little connected trail, and then it starts to ascend up to Lake of the Clouds Hut and Mount Monroe, and then you would hit the summit if you wanted to, or just head back over to Jewel Trail and head back down. But it's just a beautiful classic up here in the Whites.
Yeah, it's a great trail. And I would say I get a lot of questions from people about, like, what's the deal with parking at the Cog Railroad Station versus the Ammonoosuc Ravine Trailhead. So when you get there, if you've never been there, there is, as you get to the end of the road before you get to the Cog Railroad, on the right-hand side, there is the Ammonoosuc Ravine Trailhead. And you can park there, and basically the Jewel Trail connects along with the Ammonoosuc Trail. So the Jewel Trail is on the across the street, and there's a little bit of a wooden bridge that goes over the Franklin Brook area, which can run hot sometimes. But you can take the Jewel Trail back to Ammonoosuc Ravine Trailhead, and then obviously it connects to Ammonoosuc Ravine. If you want to park at the base station of the Cog, the benefit there is that you've got a little bit more sort of secure parking, and then you can go inside the base station to get food, use the bathroom, whatever you want. There's a cutoff trail that does save you a little bit of distance. It's called the Ammonoosuc Link Trail, so you can get that from the upper part. So you park in the lower parking lot, then you go up to the upper parking lot where the base station is, and there's food and bathrooms. You can take the Ammonoosuc Link Trail, and it saves you probably about a half a mile or so of hiking, and then you can, when you take the Jewel Trail back, you can come down and cut it off. So it saves you probably about a mile total if you decide to park at the Cog Railroad versus the Ammonoosuc Ravine Trailhead. Maybe a little bit less, but people prefer it. Sometimes they want to go to the bathroom, or they want to get some food at the base station. It's convenient.
Mm-hmm.
So, but Amanuensis is a steep trail. We get a lot of people that are inexperienced that make their way up there and find out that they're in over their head. It does give you the chance to hang out at Lakes of the Cloud Hut, and then, if you're not feeling it by the time you get to the hut, then you can go back down Amanuensis. I mean, it's pretty steep going down too, so you got to make a judgment, but.
Well, that's what happened with me and Mrs. Stump one winter. We got to the top, and it was really not safe to go back down Ammo because the ice was so bad. We just didn't have the full crampons. We had spikes. Yeah. So we ended up going straight around. And so just be aware of that. Make sure you can get back down with your ascending.
Yeah. Just be prepared and be in good shape if you take that. It's a long day.
Yeah, and Jewel is interesting too. The biggest complaint I hear about that trail is that it's just poorly marked. It's marked, but it is a bit fishy here and there. You got to pay attention. Look out for the cairns and make sure you're going the right direction at times, above tree line in particular.
Yeah. Like people stay on the Gulf Side Trail by mistake. There's like a 90-degree turn on the Jewel Trail that people tend to miss quite a bit down in the lower sections, and it is a bit of a death march at the bottom. It goes on for a long time, so
right.
Just be prepared. But that's one of the it's plus and minuses. It's like it's not super steep, but it's long.
What do we have next?
So we have our friend Jakester had hiked Eisenhower via Edmonds Path.
One of my favorites. Eisenhower's awesome. You can't miss it. When you're looking at the Southern Presidentials, it's just this beautiful dome of granite. It's just so stunning. I love it. And via Edmonds, that's a fantastic route. I've done it a bunch with Mrs. Stomp. You can access Edmonds from Mount Clinton Road. That's probably the most popular route. If you want to have a longer trip, you can access it from, say, Jackson and head north, Mount Jackson. Make it a longer day for you. You could even head up Ammo and head south and access Eisenhower. So there are all kinds of different routes. It's a beautiful open-faced summit. At the top, there's a cairn that historically has had a massive issue with hornets, and that's probably coming soon, so be aware. It's a big cairn at the top. You can get on top of it, but just watch out for those stingers.
Yeah, Stomp, and I've done this one a couple times. Mm-hmm. I've done Edmonds Path up to Eisenhower and Monroe, and I've done it a couple of different ways, but basically like Mount Clinton Road is where you want to start. It's right by the Highland Center off of 302. A little bit before the Omni Hotel in Bretton Woods in that area. So the Highland Center, and you can do this. You can do an out and back, up and down Edmonds, which I think that's what Jake did. Matter of fact, Jake and Julie came over this weekend and had a beer with me because they were up north.
Nice.
So he was telling me a little bit about this hike, but I can't remember. I think he did an out and back. But you can. I've done this as a loop where I parked at Crawford Path Trailhead, where you start to go up to Mount Pierce, mm-hmm. and then I walk down Mount Clinton Road. I think it's about a 2-mile road walk, and then you make your way up to Edmonds Path, and then you can loop around, hike Pierce, and then come back down. If you do an out and back on Edmonds Path, which I've done before to do Mount Monroe, which is a fun hike, it's not too bad coming down. There's a couple of super steep sections on Edmonds Path. The trickiest part about Edmonds Path right now, what Jake was telling me, is at like the 4,400 mark. Once you start crossing the flat section to get around the backside of the mountain, it does tend to it leans into the ravine. So mm-hmm. It's not a flat trail. And because it doesn't get a lot of sun, there's still a lot of snow and monorail on that section. Yeah. So he was a little sketched out, if I recall correctly, because he was sort of getting pushed down into the ravine a little bit.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah, so it's not fully melted up there yet, but
yeah.
Overall, good hike, good times.
Let's see, are we only on 5? Wow, interesting.
Yeah.
We're deep diving these babies.
Yes.
So this was submitted from what Donna Hamilton photographed, and it's a Moat Traverse. So I'm going to let you take this one. You've done this a bunch. I have not. I've seen them, and they're definitely impressive.
Yep. Yeah. So the Moat. So you haven't done the Moat Stomp?
I have not. It's on our bucket list.
We got to get you up there. So so you can do the moats from either north, south, south, north. I've done it from the south to the north. So start on on Passaconaway Road, which is off of West Side Road in North Conway. So basically take Route 16 through Center Conway, take a left on West Side Road, and then a left onto Passaconaway, and then you get to the South Moat Trailhead. From there, you would go up. It's a pretty gradual hike up to South Moat. It's pretty open forest area, beautiful area to hike in. You make your way up to the lower ledges of South Moat, and then eventually above tree line to South Moat Summit. And then from there, you're above tree line. You're in and out, but you're mostly above tree line for probably a good 3-mile section, 3.5 mile section from south to north. There's a bunch of ledges in the middle moat as well. You can look down into the North Conway area, into that valley. You can look across to Kearsarge North and the Green Hills. You can look behind you, and you see out to the Sandwich Range. You can see the entirety of the Sandwich Range. Yeah. It's basically parallel with the Sandwich Range the whole way across.
Amazing.
Yeah, and then you dip into the trees a little bit going across from middle to north. And then when you get onto the North Summit, I would say that's one of the summits where it's got like one of the most complete views of the White Mountains anywhere. It's very similar to Carrigain, where you can see almost the entirety of the Whites, and it's a straight shot up to like Mount Washington and the presidentials.
Yeah, more like a southern presidential view. Would you say?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, but you can see into the you can see the Carters and Wildcat and all that too. Mm-hmm. And then you make your way down. You can make your way down a couple of ways. You can go down what's called Red Ridge Trail, which takes you into, eventually connects you into sort of the Diana's Bath area. Or most people will go all the way down the North Moat Trail to connect to Diana's Bath. And if you took a left, you could keep going up into Attitash and over to Table Mountain and Bear Notch. But most people will just go out Diana's Bath. So I think it's about a 9-mile hike total with a fair amount of elevation gain and beautiful hike. But you need a car spot or some arrangement with somebody to pick you up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Cool. One of these days I'll get up there.
Yes, you will.
All right, moving on. So Dave Shits in the Woods donated a submission here, and there's a lot going on here, so we'll see what we can do with this one. But we have mega bald face loop over 2 days. So did Mount Meter, Eagle Crag, the Bald Faces, then Sable, Chandler, Eastman, and then Mount Tremont and Cave Mountain. That might have been a secondary trip, but I think the big highlight here is definitely the Bald Face Loop. We've talked about this before. Mike, you've done this recently. I've done this quite a long time ago. A number of times. This is where I always run into naked hikers. That's an interesting tip. It's a long loop. It's a 9.9 mile loop, but the traverses over these two peaks, which are roughly 3,500 feet and 3,600 feet, is just stunning. It's just a lot of open ledges, those grand vistas, the views towards the Prezzies are amazing. Location wise, this is right on the border of Maine and New Hampshire near North Conway. And Mike, you might know this one better than I. What is it, Route 113?
Yeah, it's Route 113. Matter of fact, you got to go out of North Conway up into Freiburg and then make your way into Evans Notch so you connect with 113.
Yeah.
And the trailhead is before the gate on Evans Notch before you actually enter it.
Okay. Yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful trail. The ascent up to North Baldface reminds me of some of the ascents up to, say, the Southern Presidentials. It's absolutely beautiful. Of note, there's a beautiful gem pool at the bottom called Emerald Pool, and that's literally just a few tenths of a mile off of the trailhead as you start to ascend up to North Baldface, and that's really worth checking out.
Yeah. And it looks like what he did is he did the Baldface Loop and he added Meter and Eagle Crag. And then from the way I'm reading this, he did a second hike that tagged Sable, Chandler, and Eastman. And then I think Sable and Chandler must be bushwhacks because there's no trail systems to get to those stomps. So you may want to ping him to find out more about those because those may be on your 500 highest list. I'm not sure.
Yeah, we'll do.
Yeah. then he talked about, so he was busy up there. So he also did Mount Tremont, which is off of 302 right outside of Bartlett. So it's right on the main road before you get up to like Ripley Falls and Arethusa Falls and Frankenstein Cliffs and all that stuff. So Tremont is a beast of a hike. It's like, I think you start at 800 feet of elevation and you go up to like, I don't know, 3,000 feet or something. So it's almost like you gain 100 feet for every 10, you gain 1,000 feet for every mile you hike. So it's like
that's a good one.
It's a grind and a beast of a hike. Yeah. Not super long, but great views. And then Cave Mountain is on the other side of Tremont. So he went back into Bartlett Center, took a left, went over the Saco, and then Cave Mountain is at the Mount Langdon Trailhead Stomp. When we hike Mount Parker.
Gotcha. Yep.
It's that trail, but at the very beginning of the trailhead on Mount Langdon Trail, you take a left, and then that takes you up into Cave Mountain, which is a series of caves that are on a steep climb up, and then you can go in and explore the caves, and then I think you can reconnect with Mount Langdon Trail somehow. So it's a good hike for the kids.
Yeah. Well, Dave's crushing it in this
He's
region.
doing so much shitting in the woods. It's crazy.
You got to watch out. You got to watch your step.
Seriously. All right, and then this next one here is Patrick Smart, 603. He did Diana's Bath and then over to Red Ridge Trail, which I just talked about. So this is an alternative way to get up to North Moat, which is a great hike. Yep.
Yeah, and Diana's Baths, that's a nice little area. Super crowded generally.
Very crowded. My tip, if you go to Diana's Bath, I would say go early or late. And then the other thing I would say is you'll see the crowd in the very beginning sections. Head up the trail a little ways and get up towards the top section, and it's a little less busy.
Yeah.
So, next up here, so Jakester sent in another one. So him and Julie, matter of fact, they told me about this hike over a beer, and they showed me some pictures. So they hiked Mountain Pond, which is up near where they live in Intervale and Jackson. And this is like a loop trail, so it's easy flat, and it's got views of the Doublehead. So it's an easy sort of trail right in that area there. So I'll link the details on how to get there in the show notes.
Okay, sounds good.
Next up, Gingerbeard Keen. So our friend Mike, he hiked Mount Cannon. Did he say the route that he took, Stomp?
I believe, actually, now that I think about it, it might have been KRT, Kinsman Ridge Trail.
Okay.
Yeah. So what's your take on Cannon? Cannon's interesting. There's no easy way up. Let's just put it that way.
I've hiked Cannon a couple times. I mean, I really like it. I've only ever gone up High Cannon and then down Kinsman Ridge. So I like it. I love those lower cliffs and the views there. So I got to get Caroline up to Kinsman's in Cannon at some point. So I may try to do like a big hike across the whole ridge.
Oh, yeah. There are so many options. But again, Cannon is 2,080 feet, if I can read that. I wish I had higher magnification of my glasses. But you have the Kinsman Ridge Trail, which is literally 13-mile long trail that heads over to Lost River. That's your first way up from the Cannon Tram parking lot. You have High Cannon, which Mike mentioned as well, which starts at the Lafayette Campground. And then you can also do the Lonesome Lake Trail, which passes Lonesome Lake and then ascends up to a junction which you can head southwest over the Cannonballs towards the Kinsmans or head up Kinsman Ridge Trail as well from the south. But that approach is probably the gnarliest, the steepest and bouldery. So pick your path cautiously. Honestly, of those three, if you're a newish hiker, Kinsman Ridge Trail from the Cannon Tram parking lot's probably the best bet. But again, it's pretty gnarly stuff.
Yeah, it's a fun hike though.
Yeah, it is.
So Stomp, next up, so this is my daughter's boyfriend, Devin, put in a notable hike that I was on. So we went and hiked. I took my whole family on Burnt Meadow for Saturday. So I did Mount Washington I did Mount Washington on Saturday. Then I did Burnt Meadow with the family on Sunday. Then I did Redstone Quarry on Monday, so I apologize for that. But Devin and my daughter and my brother-in-law and his girlfriend and her son Brendan, and then my nieces Maddie and Maeve all went on a hike up to Burnt Meadow, which is in Brownfield, Maine, right near my father-in-law's house. And we went up to the lower ledge to get the views. My brother-in-law and my youngest niece tapped out early on. They had enough hiking. And then we didn't make it all the way up to the summit because my younger niece was kind of done and my brother's girlfriend was kind of done at that point. But we got everyone out there and got a little taste of the hike, and we turned around before it got to the point where people were miserable.
Great.
Yeah.
Too funny.
Yep. So that was good. And then next up, we've got who sent this one in? Stomp, was this Shandy that did Crawford, Resolution, Parker, and Stairs?
I don't know. That's a good question.
You know? Okay.
Yeah. Well, whoever did that, nice job.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's a beast of a hike. So I mean, adding Parker to that is
yeah.
That's a beast of a hike. But so that is off the trailhead of 302 Davis Path. You make your way up to Crawford and then come back down Crawford, hit Resolution, and then up to Stairs. And then I think, well, maybe what they did is they probably did Crawford, then Stairs, and then came over to Resolution and then hiked to Parker and then back out. But yeah, that's a great area there in the Montalban Range.
Yeah, that's really neat.
Yep.
And a couple more.
So LB Boyd, I'm going to give this one as the notable hike of the week because she finished her 52 with a view list on this one. So she's going to be the winner. And she went out and did Mount Success for the completion of her 52 with a view list. So getting out there this time of the year is impressive. I'm sure it was a mud fest, but congratulations for finishing.
Yeah. Excellent. And then last but not least, what's that?
Yeah, and just a little bit before we go to this, to get to Mount Success as a reminder, you got to go up through Berlin, then you got to go Success Pond Road, and make your way up a couple of miles up there, and then park, and then hike your way up. So it's a huge project to get out there. So congratulations.
Yeah, it's an effort. But the views are unbelievable. They totally pay off.
Unbelievable up there. So
much like they do at Willard. So the last one here is Nick hikes and plays guitar. This just came in yesterday, and he did Mount Willard. And Willard's awesome. It's in Crawford Notch, right on 302. 3.2 miles round trip, I believe, and 2,800 foot elevation. So it's averaged about 3 to 4 hour round trip. You can zip it. It's not too difficult, really. It's moderate difficulty, if that, but it opens up to an incredible view of Crawford Notch. You've got the Willie Cliffs, and it's just awesome. Great spot for the fall too.
Excellent. Yeah. So we got a lot of great hikes here. So Nick hikes and plays guitar, did Willard, and that wraps it up. There were 3 other hikes, Stomp, though, that we bailed on because we've never done those. So one with Speed did a bushwhack over the back of Saddleback Mountain in Northwood. And I don't think I'm familiar with that one. Liz Fay did a 3-day AT section hike, Ledyard Link to Trapper John Shelter, which I didn't do my homework on that one. I'm suspecting I've been on sections of that, but maybe not all of it. And then Miss Vaughn, Jazz Hands, I'm doing my Jazz Hands signal here, did the Rhode Island North-South Trail that we're not familiar with. So keep them coming. Keep loading up the notable hikes. Just at SLASRPodcast.com or hashtag SLASRPodcast, and then notable hikes.
Yep. Thank you very much, everybody. So Mount Washington Observatory, Seek the Peak, returns this summer with the classic Mount Washington Hike-a-thon. This annual gathering of New Hampshire's hiking community is the nonprofit Mount Washington Observatory's largest annual fundraiser. Hikers raise funds, earn gear, and celebrate at our après hike party on Saturday, July 15th, with live music, food trucks, epic gear, raffle, beer garden, vendors, and people who care deeply about the trails and an inclusive hiking community. It all takes place at the base of the Mount Washington Auto Road. Our hike and make friends option supports all ability levels. pairing hikers with similar goals for a trek that's right for you. All hikers are welcome to help raise funds for the observatory's summit weather station and services like the twice-a-day Higher Summits forecast, educational programs, and research in the White Mountains. Seek the Peak is sponsored by Great Glen Trails and Eastern Mountain Sports. So learn more and register to hike at seekthepeak.org.
Are you ready for SLASR's gear review?
As part of the training for the Mount Washington Road Race, I actually was curious about how compression stockings would impact my training. So I started using a pair of just uniform, not graduated compression stockings over the last 2 weeks, and it's been pretty interesting. So it got me thinking, I wonder if they actually serve a purpose. Like, is there a real benefit to them? As people know, they're really common in bedbound patients in the medical field. They're used generally to prevent DVTs, blood clots, things of that nature, but they're becoming more popular with the athletic community. And I think, like everything else, I'm a little bit behind the eight ball. But do you use compression stockings for anything, Mike?
I don't use them for stockings or anything. I've used them for shorts, mostly just for like triathlon stuff and training, but nothing around like my legs or anything like that. I've had cramping issues, and I've heard that they can help with that, but I just haven't done anything really with compression aside from just wearing the shorts for training for triathlons.
So compression shorts.
Yeah.
What's the idea behind that? Same concepts? Possible.
Yeah, I think for the most part, it is to sort of keep everything not moving around. So it's better than just underwear. It's just sort of compression shorts that we use for comfort too. It's more comfortable to use those. So I use those. Sometimes I wear them under shorts. And but that's about it. So I haven't really done anything else besides that. I see people wearing compression tights for their forearms and their arms, and then I've seen them wearing them with the socks and legs and things like that. But I just haven't. Other than that, I really don't know much about it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, here's a couple little things. Some of the brands, you have Tommy Copper, and the metal infused brands. Let's just put that aside for now and deal with that some other time. But you have Tommy, you have CEP, Sockwell, Zensa, ZENSAA, and 2XU. Those are some of the more popular brands. Lengths, generally you have ankle high, knee high, and I believe that thigh highs are becoming more popular for whatever reason. How much compression? So they range between 12 milligrams of mercury to 40. And the average that I found online was basically 15 to 25 for athletes and for workouts, and per some of the studies that I discovered. Now, when you look at the studies, there's not much out there, but there are some for certain areas and concerns. So first thing is circulation. That's a no-brainer. So the idea is you're pooling blood. There may be some post-workout swelling in your legs. So compression stockings will aid in reducing the pooling and swelling that may occur. That's pretty well studied and not in question at this point. Subsequent performance. There is a study, an Australian study, and they found that if you wear them once, you may see a benefit in your performance during a second or subsequent workout. So that's pretty interesting. They have been found to lower lactate levels, lactic acid. Everybody's familiar with that burn that you get in your muscles when you're working out. So that's just basically waste material, waste products that your body's creating when you're exercising. So there is some data, and one study in particular came out of the American Journal of Physical Medicine, and they showed that compression stockings did lower those lactate levels, which led to a quicker recovery. Injury prevention, this is sort of the tough one. There is no real solid data out there in terms of stockings preventing injuries. Most of it does seem to be more anecdotal. Runners saying, I have not had as many injuries. So that's not really solid data. So I think that's an area that may need to be looked into a little bit more deeply before they can really solidly make that claim. And I guess the idea is, if there's a pool of fluid in your legs, that is going to possibly create a misstep or poor coordination and poor form when you're running or hiking or whatever you're doing. So I guess that's the general hypothesis that they're trying to look into when it comes to injury prevention. That makes sense. Yeah, it makes sense.
So are you buying compression gear, Stomp, based on this?
I have 2 sets of stockings that I'm using, and I'll touch upon that when we get through the last few things here. I have noticed a few things for sure, but they're not necessarily on this list. I'm noticing something a little bit different. So muscle soreness, heavily studied. This is not a question anymore. Compression garments do reduce muscle soreness and lead to quicker recovery. And then there's a psychological benefit. They did find that wearing these stockings does add to not so much a physiological benefit in terms of injury prevention and things like that, but there is a psychological benefit that has been studied to some degree. And that came out of the Journal of Strength and Conditioning Research in 2016. And I just wanted to thank Sarah LaCourse. She did provide some data behind the scenes. And if you're not familiar with Sarah, she is a strength trainer. She does all kinds of things, but she's super informative. And if anybody's interested, you can look up SLACOURSE on Instagram. And then from there, she has a link tree. And she's a strength coach, sports nutrition coach, all kinds of things. She does a million different things. So thank you, Sarah, for putting some input on this. So back to me. I have noticed perhaps quicker recovery time for sure. And there's a term called proprioception as well, which we use in the healthcare industry, which is just an awareness of your movement and your position in space, I guess. And I've noticed that I've ran better. My form is better. I'm more aware of how my feet are landing because there's that constant pressure on your feet and your ankles. So I think in a proprioceptive sense, they're beneficial. But again, it's just anecdotal. I think it's there's variability for everybody.
Interesting. So yeah, I think at the end of the day, even if you've got some psychological benefit out of it, it's probably worth it.
Yeah, for sure.
I think where I would shy away from it is in heat situations. If it was super hot, I don't know how comfortable it would be to. That's been tough.
Yeah, no question. They're not comfortable in that sense. In this weather, it's been tough, but I think you can get around that with certain brands.
Interesting. Well, yeah. I can't wait to check out your tights at the Mount Washington Road Race Stomp.
Yeah, well, they're black. I'm definitely going to wear them. I'm definitely not going to go with the white ones.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We appreciate that. So thank you, Sarah, for giving us some additional information on this stuff.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. Excellent. So, all right, maybe I'll have to get some Stomp. I'll get like one leg so I can look fancy. Like I know the track, I've noticed that like the high level track runners will wear the compression leggings. And then I've also noticed that a lot of NBA players will wear leggings as well now.
Yeah, for sure. Well, you could do a placebo. You can wear one on one and then have the other leg be the placebo and you can just see what happens.
True. Imagine if I start running in circles, like because one leg is so much more powerful than the other.
You're right. Slow down, leg.
All right, so Stomp, we got some search and rescue news here. So we're going to go with a national story here. Hiker dies in Grand Canyon trekking from rim to river and back in a day. So this happened on the Bright Angel Trail, which is the main trail. So think of this as if you've never gone to the Grand Canyon, essentially like the Bright Angel Trail would be the equivalent of like Franconia Ridge or Tuckerman Ravine for us. It's like where everybody starts off, and then you can branch off into some other trails. But essentially, Bright Angel Trail is where people go. If you're going to do a rim to river and then back up, you're talking like a lot of elevation drop, and then you've got to get out to the river. The problem with this is that if it's a hot day, by the time you get to like 9 in the morning, it starts getting ridiculously hot. You think heat rises, but the heat actually sits down in that valley, and it's just a dangerous hike if you don't manage your food and drink correctly. So it looks like this is a 36-year-old woman from Westfield, Indiana, and she's dealing with excessive heat. And park rangers noted that visitors must be prepared if they decide to hike at all. Temperatures on exposed portions of the Bright Angel Trail can get to 120 degrees Fahrenheit, even in the shade, of which there is little.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so even just to get to Plateau Point, which looks over the river, it's 12 miles and 3,000 feet of elevation change.
That's a lot.
Yeah. So it's a lot there. So I guess they're still investigating the cause of death, and they don't have any further information. But, if you're going to do, I know people that have done rim to rim and back and rim to river in a day. So it can be done. It's just not something like, even when I was out there, Stomp, like I was hiking all over Sedona, and I had these grand plans where I was going to be like, oh, I'm going to do this 8-mile hike, or I'm going to do this 7-mile hike. And I was hiking 15, 20 miles in the whites, no problem. When you get into that heat in the desert, when there's no shade, it's a completely different scenario. Like the mileage that you can do in New England in the shade, in the cooler weather, even in humid conditions, is completely different than what goes on out west.
Yeah, I agree. Crazy.
Yeah. So, and then you put together some stats on the Bright Angel Trail.
Yeah, just mileage and elevation and things like that. But they do get into water safety and just making a smart plan for your day, checking the weather, packing properly, hyponatremia, losing sodium in your body. And there's some good stuff in here. So
yeah, I'll put this in the show notes, and it's it's 12 miles round trip to Plateau Point, and then to get to the water situation. You got water at 1.5 mile and 3-mile rest houses,
right? And
then also at Havasupia Garden as well. But it is it's a challenging hike. The Grand Canyon's fantastic, but I highly recommend, if you're going to do it, try to get something going on an overnight.
Yeah, it's probably a good idea for sure.
Yep. All right, Stomp. So next up, we've got Memorial Day was a mess.
It sure was.
Here in New Hampshire. And, oh, crap. We
got hit hard.
We got hit. Can you pull up this article? Because I am getting blocked on my...
oh, sure. Let me see what we have.
Paywall. You're going to have to read it.
Yeah, this is off the New Hampshire Union Leader, and this article is basically a summary, and there's everything in here from rollovers of ATVs and all kinds of things. But of note, there were a couple of climbing incidents that are really pretty interesting. Let me get to the area here. Yeah, well, yeah. Oh my goodness, it was a gunshot wound too, non-life-threatening. But
I read about that.
Yeah, so we have a 25-year-old from Cambridge, Massachusetts, and conservation officers around 7:30 p.m. were contacted that there was an injured climber in the area of Sundown Ledge in Albany. So this individual fell while rock climbing with a group of friends. Witnesses reported that Han, the 25-year-old, fell 20 feet when he fell, suffering serious injuries to both lower extremities. When rescuers arrived, they stabilized Han and transported him by rescue litter to Memorial Hospital in North Conway. And then, before 7 p.m., Another climber had an injury on Cathedral Ledge. Check this one out. The climber, identified as Matthew Allen, 24, of New York City, was climbing with Peter Kittredge, 24, of Whitensville, Mass, when he fell nearly 50 feet and suffered serious but non-life-threatening injuries due to the fall. And he was transported to Memorial Hospital. There were reports elsewhere with more details, and apparently these were bolt failures. One was an anchor failure, and I believe this second one with the 50-foot fall was a bolt failure, which I guess it's fairly uncommon because you're talking about the bolts that are permanent in there. They're just, screwed in or however they do it, as opposed to the anchors that are put in as you're climbing, as you're lead climbing. So strange, a bolt failure. I hope to find out some more information about that over time, because you don't hear about that too often. No, you don't. I mean, be interesting.
You would think that you would keep your, I don't know. Is it a matter of keeping your equipment up to date, or is it just dumb luck? Or is it placement of where you put the bolt?
I wouldn't even want to guess. I'm not a climber. I'm not about to speculate about that. I mean, when you're climbing with your own personal anchors, you have to put them in to whatever nook or crevice that's available. So I suppose there's a percentage of that could be your decision and how you put it in and whatever else. I'm sure that the failure of an anchor itself is probably pretty rare. I'm sure it's more a matter of how it's placed and where it's placed. I don't know. Not really sure. We need to get a climber in here that knows his stuff.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
And then last but not least here, we have another one on Middle Mountain Trail. There was a 64-year-old of Chatham and was hiking by himself. And shortly after summiting Middle Mountain Trail, he sustained an injury and called for assistance. So conservation officers determined he needed an assist and not a full carry out. So no litter there, but an assist. So they're just giving him a gentle arm for support, which is nice. So Fargo was able to walk out of the trail approximately at 3:50 p.m. So super busy Memorial Day weekend.
Excellent. And then last but not least, Stomp, we have an injured hiker on Mount Chikora. So this happened on Monday. Shortly before 8 p.m., Fish and Game was notified that a hiker was injured on the Weedamo Trail. So we talked about Mount Chikora recently and the whole history around Weedamo Trail. Mm-hmm. So this hiker was an 18-year-old out of Pembroke, Massachusetts. She was hiking with two friends when she severely injured her ankle while descending the trail. The hiker attempted to bear weight on her injured ankle, but was unable to do so. So the group correctly called 911, and it was about a 2-mile hike from the trailhead. So conservation officers, Conway Fire and Rescue, Tamworth Fire, Madison Fire, West Ossipee Fire, Effingham, and Wolfboro Fire Departments responded along with members of Lake Region Search and Rescue. The young lady was treated, placed in a litter, and carried out, and she arrived back at the trailhead shortly before 12 a.m. and was driven from the scene by her friends to seek medical attention. So, wow. No comment on preparedness. Sounds like she was prepared. I always tell people to bring a splint as part of your 11 essentials, and you never know. I mean, it's tough to tell whether or not this might have been fixed with a splint and she would have made her way out or not, but you never know. It's worth taking one.
Yeah.
Yep.
So all in all, we made it through the busiest weekend, right? Not too bad.
Yeah, we did. And then do we have any teasers for guests coming up, Stomp, that you want to tell the audience?
Nothing confirmed, but I think we may be having a chat with author Ken Bossy. Remember, he came in and he was hilarious.
Yes.
Well, apparently he wrote another book, and it's looking to be as funny as the earlier one. So he also talks to some of the search and rescue teams and Fish and Game as well for some cool information. And then let's see, who else? Gwen Stratton. I'm really looking forward to having a chat with her. She's so accomplished, and she's crushing it up here. Like, she's just a hiker, climber, trail runner. So that's going to be a really great chat.
Excellent. So we are going to call this show a wrap. Stomp, enjoy your DJing duties at the Mount Chikora race this weekend. And I'll be out hopefully on the Kinsmans and that area there to do some hiking. And if you're around there, keep an eye out for me Saturday or Sunday. And otherwise, nice. We'll see you next week.
All righty. Later.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the show, you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, YouTube, or wherever you listen to podcasts. If you want to learn more about the topics covered in today's show, please check out the show notes and safety information at SLASRPodcast.com. That's SLASRPodcast.com. You can also follow the show on Facebook and Instagram. We hope you'll join us next week for another great show. Until then, on behalf of Mike and Stomp, get out there and crush some mega peaks.
Now covered in scratches, blisters, and bug bites, Chris Staff wanted to complete his most challenging day hike ever.
Fish and Game officers say the hiker from Florida activated an emergency beacon yesterday morning. He was hiking along the Appalachian Trail when the weather started to get worse. Officials say the snow was piled up to 3 feet in some spots, and there was a wind chill of -1 degree.
And there's 3 words that describe this race. Do we all know what they are? Only one hell!
Lieutenant James Nealon from New Hampshire Fish and Game. Lieutenant, thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
What are some of the most common mistakes you see people make when they're heading out on the trails to hike here in New Hampshire?
It seems to me the most common is being unprepared, and I think if they just simply visited hikesafe.com and got a list of the 10 essential items and had those in their packs, they probably would have no need to ever call us at all.